Stanway Evangelical Church. Ella has asked me to talk to you today about the wedding at Cana, where Jesus and his disciples and family were invited to this wedding. So without further ado, I'll read it. It's from John chapter 2, starting at verse 1. And it says, on the third day, now I don't know what the third day was because it doesn't refer to the first or second day, so that may be significant or not, I'm not sure. On the third day, a wedding took place in Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Dear woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My time has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons, so obviously quite big jars. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realise where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you've saved the best till last." This then was the first of his miraculous signs Jesus performed in Cana in Galilee. He thus revealed his glory to his disciples, and they put their faith in him. Now it's interesting, John's Gospel has a Gospel with specific signs that they're called that Jesus does, and they're there for a reason. This is the first of 7 that John records specifically as miracles that are down as signs. And it's interesting that there's several interesting things about this. I'm not sure about the significance of the third day. Now, some people have said this refers to the day Jesus rose from the dead. On the third day he rose from the dead, having been put to death on the Friday, and on what we call now Easter Sunday, rose from the dead. But I don't know the significance of that. I haven't looked into that, but it may or may not be significant. But it's interesting that as soon as the wine runs out, Jesus' mother says to Jesus, "We have no more wine," as if to say, to Jesus, well, what are you going to do about it? And he's sort of thinking, well, why are you asking me? Why do you involve me? My time has not yet come. Now that's an interesting thing to say, isn't it? Jesus' mother and disciples probably had no idea what he was talking about. But of course what that was referring to was looking forward to his sacrifice that he'd make for all of us at Calvary. And obviously the wine that was changed from the water is significant in that respect as well. And it's interesting too that he said, fill up 6 large stone containers, stone jars with water, and they were 20 to 30 gallons, so not small jars. And Jesus' mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." So they did exactly that. They filled them up to the brim with water. And when they'd been filled up, he said, take some water to the steward and let him taste it. So he did that, and the steward tasted them and realised that it had been turned into wine. Well, obviously he didn't know where that had come from, but the servants did know that. And what I think is that it refers to the new wine, doesn't it? It's interesting that the old wine had gone. Everybody had used up the old wine. They'd got fed up with the old wine. They'd probably got a little bit, drunk maybe on the old wine, and the old wine was no good anymore. And eventually the old wine runs out. But actually, what Jesus is saying is there is new wine coming, and the new wine is much better than the old wine. And the fact that it's 6 very large stone jars really means that there's plenty there. There is more than enough. It's not going to be, well, here's your new wine, but it's running out tomorrow, or here's your new wine, but it runs out next week. No, here's your new wine, and because the containers are effectively bottomless, you can come up and be refilled with my new wine any time you like. And that's what Jesus says, be filled with the Spirit. Isn't he talking about being filled with the Spirit? I have come that you might have life and have it in all its fullness, John 10 verse 10. And so I think that the reference there is that the old wine has been exhausted, but the new wine is being poured out exuberantly, being poured out without limit, without end, and that is available to us. The third significant thing is, I think that Jesus chose to reveal himself to some people, but actually he didn't choose to reveal himself to the bride or the bridegroom or to the important guests at the wedding, or even to the people, the catering guys, people, the stewards and people looking after the guests. No, what he did was he chose to reveal himself to the servants and to the disciples and to his mother. And I think that's significant, isn't it? Because that talks about Jesus coming in servanthood. And it's like when, referring back to when he was born, it wasn't revealed to the kings, it wasn't revealed to important people, it wasn't flashed all around the world. No, it was revealed to shepherds sitting on a hillside. It was revealed to Eastern mystics who came from afar and brought him gifts, and people like that. So that's what Jesus is about, isn't it? He's about revealing himself to those who are not, if you like, self-important in places of importance. No, he's after revealing himself to the downtrodden, to the poor, to those marginalised, to the pushed aside, to the poor and needy, and to anyone really who will humble themselves and come to him. So that's the third important setting. And I think the fourth thing is that it's a wedding. It's symbolic, isn't it? It's a wedding in Cana, but it's symbolic of looking forward to the end times, to when Jesus is having the marriage supper of the Lamb in the New Jerusalem. And I think that's it, isn't it? The marriage between Christ and his church, and the blood is the blood of the covenant which seals that union, and the wine that's being poured out, the new wine that's being poured out at the end of the feast here is significant because it refers to the blood of the covenant and the wedding of Christ and us at the end times. So those are I think the four things I want to bring out there. It's interesting that I'll just read what it says in John 20, because I think this is important as well, just referring back to the 7 signs that Jesus did. And it says, Jesus did many other miraculous signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. It's interesting, isn't it? There's lots recorded in John, but obviously lots are not recorded in the book. But these are written that you may believe in Jesus, that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. So the signs that John writes about are for a specific reason. They're to reveal who Jesus is, to reveal that he is the Christ, the Messiah, the sent one, the anointed one, the Son of God, and that when we believe in him, by believing in him, we might have life in his name. So thanks very much for listening. This is actually not a cup of water that I'm going to turn into wine, it's my coffee, so I'll get on and drink that, and I'll leave you in peace. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.